Welcome to Pickleball Rodeo. This is episode 1, which is a roundtable discussion with tournament directors from all across the country. My name is Kim Scholz. I am co-director along with Michael Balin of Coachella Valley Grand Prix and Pickleball, which we just finished our first tournament of the year at PGA West in La Quinta. And I'd like to introduce Lynn. Go ahead.
Hi, everyone. My name is Lynn Lowry. I'm the president of Spalding County Pickleball Association. And unlike others, I am actually not a tournament director. However, I am president of the association, and I work closely with our tournament director partner, which is Georgia Pickleball Association. We've been running tournaments at our facility in Spalding County, Georgia for going on 6 years. I've been playing out there at that facility for 5 years. I've been president of the association for the past year. And we have a membership size of probably around 350 members which is a small town in middle Georgia. It's pretty good size membership base. And we have an 18-court facility where we have in our town. We are also the host site for the APP's Atlanta Metro Open. So we've hosted that tournament for the past 2 years, and this year will be our 3rd year for hosting that tournament. We're looking forward to having this roundtable discussion about pickleball and all things about running tournaments and things of that nature. So Daniel, go ahead.
I'm Dan Bettmann. I work for the city of Bluffs, Iowa. I'm a recreation and events manager for the city, and collectively pairing up with the Pickleball Omaha and then the Council Bluffs area pickleball, we are putting on the Council Bluffs and Omaha Pickleball Showcase, March 10th through 12th. So it's our first stab at hosting a tournament in the area, and it's a 3-prong approach with the 2 clubs and myself. I'm a member of both clubs, and then I'm representing kind of the city of Council Bluffs and how we use all of our resources to bring a tournament in. The tournament starting this weekend. We have over 330 registrants, so we're pretty happy about that. But I am not I'm the tournament director of this, but this is my first one of this. I've just always worked in sports prior to that. So,
Daniel, you got somebody that's going to help you outrun it? Because that's pretty daunting to run a tournament of 300 plus participants.
We were thinking if we got 150, we would be happy, because we were back in September, so it's been exceeding our expectations. But I guess we should have been prepared for it, because Omaha Club has over 1,000 members in it, and then the Council Bluff Club has over 500 members in it. So yes, we have a committee. We have some definite tournament experience people on the committee helping run this. So we feel pretty good about it. We'll have to ask me again on Monday.
Well, anyway, what got you guys into pickleball in the first place?
So for me, my genesis was I was actually a disc golfer before I was a pickleball player. And the park where our facility is located, I was out playing disc golf routinely. And I watched the facility get built from day one, from scratch. And so I was just curious about it. I had previous background in racquetball. Racquetball kind of lost its popularity from the 80s. And so I was like, well, pickleball sounds different, sounds interesting. So I'm going to give it a try when the facility gets built. And that's how I got started. Just happened to see it being built and watched it being built and was curious about it.
Yeah, for me, I was taught in my junior high in northern South Dakota. So I learned it as a junior high student, like 25 years ago, roughly, somewhere in that range, maybe even a little bit more than that. And then didn't really see it again. And I've lived around a little bit, moved. I have a degree in recreation management. I've worked in campus recreation, running intramural and club sports at universities. And when I lived in Detroit area, my former graduate assistant, she was working for the Older Persons Commission outside of Detroit, and talking about how she does all these recreation activities, but all that happens is pickleball. and I hadn't heard pickleball mentioned for such a long time. So that's like kind of that old cliche. Its old reputation that it was for older people. But then I moved to St. Louis and started it with intramural sports. Started it with the college campus, 18-year-olds to 23-year-olds was our main age range. And then when that was going on, I started getting back into it, or got into it, I guess.
I was a dedicated tennis player. I spent most of my high school and college life playing tournaments around the country. And basically, I had no intention of ever playing pickleball until the famous injury hits you. Pickleball had everything I needed. And the other thing I liked about how it crossed over for me was the fact that I was, although I'm older, I was always challenging young tennis players and even collegiate players into my 60s. I was doing well. Well, when your shoulder goes, that's it. It's gone. When I came to pickleball, I could still get on the pickleball court and still compete with the younger guys, not win, but compete. And I really, really enjoyed that. And therefore, I said, I gotta continue with this. And then I started bringing over my friends from the tennis world. In fact, some of my tennis friends now are totally dedicated to pickleball and just won a national championship. They're never going to go back to tennis.
Well, that can be a rare thing sometimes. It seems like there's a few different factions usually of either they play tennis and they'll love pickleball, or they just don't want to give it a chance because they view it as encroaching on their territory.
It's the turf war, I call it. In the Coachella Valley, I am lucky. One, we have a demographic that really fits into pickleball. One, most of it, a lot of retired people. We have huge housing developments that have numerous pickleball courts. In the beginning, there was this rivalry between the two factions you were talking about. Pickleball people wanted pickleball courts and they were going to take tennis courts away. And that was a problem. And in fact, I was even getting drawn into it to make recommendations. And here I am basically with tennis and the pickleball world. But what happened is that HOAs realized that putting in dedicated pickleball courts without taking away tennis courts was an inexpensive way in the long run to increase housing. Prices would go up, people wanted to move into their areas, and so they've embraced it more. So as your tournaments, I'm curious, you mentioned 300 people you had in yours?
339 is that last count.
And Lynn, how many do you have in yours?
Yeah, we just broke 300 ourselves, so we're at 302 for our tournament coming up this weekend.
We found that we were going to cap ours at 450 no matter what, just from a management standpoint, and which was a good decision because we never reached the 400 mark. I really like the fact from tournament management standpoint and for budget, the USA. Are you first off? Are your sanctioned tournaments? Are you a USA Pickleball sanctioned?
No, the only sanctioned tournament that we have is the APP Atlanta Metro Open.
Okay.
We've just chosen not to go the sanctioned route just because of the referees. I mean, it's just so difficult to get referees for sanctioned matches.
Yep, we're the same. We aren't sanctioned, and that would probably be the soapbox part later of it's the referees part of it and the steps and the process for that. And so,
well, the latest change has been if you're 300 or less, well, actually 100 a day, you do not have to have officiated matches. You just have to have one certified official, which really helps. And we've now been doing that for budgetary reasons and from management points of view. So that it makes it a lot easier. We also have used the MMO medal match only, which decreases the number of officials needed. So I don't know if you've ever looked into that but that we could talk about that later, like you said, in the soapbox.
Well, I'm just curious before we jump off of that topic. So it sounds like do you primarily run sanctioned? Is that your goal, your focus?
Yes, and there's a reason why we do the sanctioning. It's not really to attract more players, is that I run a pickleball league. And we need ratings, and self rates are, we want to get the least amount of people self rated, more of them with a real rating. Now there's Duper that's out there, and then there's the UTPR rating, and we want the one that's tested in tournament play at this moment, which happens to be the USA Pickleball Sanction rating. So with that, then we get more of our players rated and can play in their proper divisions, and we have less conflict over you're a 3-5, no, you're a 4-0 type of thing. So that's our ulterior motive why we run our pickleball tournaments and make them sanctioned. I would just say from my experience, don't be sanctioned. That number is pretty good, and I have found that sanctioning really didn't draw any more players. And then your players still would have to register and pay another fee to join USA Pickleball if they haven't already done that. So guys, why should a person play a tournament?
So, I mean, for our tournament that we're hosting, we have our age range of 12 to 80. And honestly, knowing who both those players are, they could be on the same court at the same time and be competitive with each other or against each other. And the ability to do that interaction in anywhere else is pretty rare. They're not going to be playing baseball together. They're not going to, a bunch of other interactions where they could have that mutual, the mutual interest, mutual skill level, mutual, just that connection. That's pretty hard to find. So they can do that, and maybe it wouldn't have met each other in a tournament. And that tournament setting brings together just so many different people. We offered a range for starting at 2.5 level, and then went up by 0.5 up to 5.0, and then different age levels, 3 different age tiers, so that they could participate in their same age range and skill level. But that 2.5 level means we have people that I gave lessons to in January that are participating in this tournament, and they'll do just fine. They'll have a good pool of people to play against, and I know they're going to have fun. So the tournament setting, why you should play a tournament, is the ability to, you play in your group, your favorite little Tuesday morning group. How does that match up against some of these other people that maybe are playing in their own Tuesday morning group on the other side of town or on the other side of the state? So you get to at least test your own skills, the social aspect of it, the ability to, get a picture with a medal on it, with the medal, wearing medal, and the social part of a tournament, I think, is a big part of it. But also, once you start moving up those levels, it's that test of skill. So I say I'm a whatever level in my group that I play with. Well, let's see what it is, if that's the same against that same level from other cities or from the other side of the city. So
yeah, we kind of experience the same thing. Ratings tend to be really localized, if you will. you may rate yourself a 4-0 player at your home facility and then go play somewhere else where it's a deeper talent pool, and lo and behold, you're really a 3-5. So yeah, tournament is a relatively decent gauge for someone to try to figure out, am I really, does my local rating really match up to what is, nationally recognized as a true rating of, 3-0 or 3-5. So I totally agree with that. I like you, Daniel. I teach introductory pickleball to newcomers to our association, as well as run a small pro shop there at our facility. And so I'm always answering the question, well, what paddle should I buy? Because newbies they really don't know, to be honest with you. And my first question I always ask them, I say, well, what do you want to be when you grow up as a pickleball player? It certainly, if they choose to, they say, well, yeah, I see myself someday playing in a tournament, then I try to steer them towards more higher end level paddles, because that's something that they can grow into as their skills develop. But if they say, oh, I just want to be a recreational player, then I just tell them, go buy whatever you want to buy and what feels good in your hand. Because honestly, as a recreational player, you're probably going to switch paddles 3 or 4 times at least before you finally decide on one that you like. Or you may buy the Onyx Z5, and that be the paddle that you play with for the rest of your recreational career. So
that was my first paddle.
Yeah, I think it's a lot of people's first paddle, the Onyx Z5. It's a beautiful piece of equipment. we always try to have something at our tournaments that would help engage that social aspect, right? Because for sure, pickleball is a highly social sport compared to tennis, compared to other court sports. Because I think it's because of that closeness, right? Pickleball draws us into that non-volley zone line to get in those heated dinking contests, and the courts are definitely smaller than tennis, so and it seems to be more a doubles friendly or doubles oriented sport rather than singles. So you actually have double the people out there than you do in singles. So there's this whole social aspect of it.
So true about the player experience. And the one key word or key phrase for us is meaningful play. There is a desire for players that are starting out in rec. They want, like you said, test themselves, but they want something that has meaning behind it. And that's what the tournament experience gives them. So yeah, the player experience, the vendors are all great, the food, but also the tech. Tournament is actually a great time for that.
In 2017, when our facility opened, all of our tournaments were run on paper brackets. Even though the tournament director was managing it on an Excel spreadsheet or something like that, he was posting paper brackets out on the wall, and people would gather around that thing like vultures and look to see what their results are. And nowadays, I mean, here we are just 6 years later, and we're getting results real time on our phones now and things like that. So absolutely, tech has made a big difference in that tournament experience.
The point about how going to a tournament, another aspect of it that is appealing is that if you're in this open play environment where you play most of your games against new people, winner split maybe or whatnot, the tournament aspect gets you that connection or that ability to really play with one partner, which if you only play open play and you're always rotating, you kind of you have a connection with that person for just a few minutes. But I really like the tournament aspect of where you are in a goal together with somebody, and for that day your goal is to do well, play off each other's strengths, which doesn't necessarily always happen just right. in the park on the weekend. So
right, you can talk over coverages and stacking and all that other good stuff and signals. Yeah, I totally agree.
For our facility, what we decided to do to help introduce the sport or make it easier for the sport to be introduced to newbies is we've got loaner paddles sitting out for anyone to use, and we've got balls sitting right next to the loaner paddles, and we've got a big sign up there that basically says these are free loaner paddles. Take them and use them. And yeah, we've had some walk off, but honestly, people have been really good about taking the paddles off of the paddle rack, going out and using them, and then returning them back once they're done using them. So it's all about trying to make them feel like they're not out there on an island all by themselves trying to figure it out.
Yeah. So then for us, when people are trying to figure out where are their pickleball opportunities, I mean, number one, you usually generally start with checking Facebook, that type of thing. So our Parks and Recreation Department, we've started offering leagues, and we publicize those through the Parks and Rec, but then we have a great partnership with the Council Bluffs Area Pickleball. People can come in, and the same thing, there's paddles there. There's a very low startup to joining a league. You pay your fee, but you don't necessarily even have to have the equipment. So for me, why I feel like the future of pickleball is so bright is that the ability to start playing the sport, the skill level necessary, the threshold for joining is it's a very friendly, welcoming, easy start. You can start today, and in a week you could be competent. Like, you can be playing against other people and know what you're doing. But then the great thing about that is you'll never reach basically expertise. You'll just keep always wanting to get better and better. But the best story I can relate to why I feel like the growth of the game isn't just a fluke or something that's going to go away is that I had my sister and her husband, and then my niece and nephew are 10 and 13. They were in town visiting me, and we went and played pickleball. They had never played before, all four of them. And no matter what the rotation was, if it was dad and mom playing against son and daughter, or dad and son playing against daughter and mother. The games are always good. Their games were always equal. Everyone was having fun. They were ability to do something together as a family for, well, back-to-back days. We were just going to do it for an hour, and then that turned into 2 hours, and then they wanted to do it again the next day. But that turned into an activity that they could do together where they were all invested in it, and again, had never played the day prior to that. So they learned it one day, and by the next day they were, no matter who they were playing with, as a small 4-person family where there's hardly any other sport you could, in my head, there's hardly any other activity where you could do that and be active outside, get all the benefits of that physical exercise. So that's why I think the sport is unique over so many other options.
What I really like about the sport is you can connect with people very quickly just by saying, I play pickleball. It's amazing. You can be on a plane, you can be in the stores, you're looking at things, and the game is just taking off in its popularity. And then again, like I'm on a cruise. What's a cruise ship have? It has a pickleball court on it. Well, right away, you're connecting with people on board ship. That was pretty cool. You go to resorts places, what do they got? They got pickleball courts. All of a sudden, you're meeting people, you're engaged with people from all over the place. And what do you have in common? We got the game, and that's the best part of it.
Yeah, I personally love the openness of the sport in terms of how welcoming it is to strangers, if you will, right? So I feel like I could go to virtually any pickleball facility in my state uninvited, show up out there on the courts, and as long as there were people out there playing, I could join the game within 5 minutes. I really feel like that. I don't think other sports are as welcoming.
I played baseball and soccer growing up. I didn't play any racket sport, and the picking up the game was still super easy. And I think that is something maybe some people might have a misconception about. Oh, I have to have this skill set that previously to be good at it. I have to have played tennis before. I've had to, I have to participate in all these other sports, or, play, be a really good racquetball player or tennis player. And then that's only people who play pickleball. And that's not the case at all. And I think that's another reason why the growth of the game will just continue.
I totally agree with everything you guys have said. And the one thing I think that really helps the newbies that are coming in is it's not how you do it. It's with the ball. It's what you do with the ball. You're allowed the freedom to put your stamp of approval on a certain shot. Your technique might be really strange, but if it accomplishes the goal, that's what it's all about. And I think that's the one thing that the players like when they come in.